What became of Clark Kent and his son John in a world bereft of the Justice League? Well, let's hop into the pages of Dark Crisis Worlds Without a Justice League Superman issue number 1 and find out together, shall we? Alrighty then, so this new tie into the bigger Dark Crisis storyline has been something of a mystery even for me, who considers themselves pretty plugged into what's going on in comics. As a critic, I actually find myself a little lost talking about this one, because to properly discuss the whole thing, I'm going to basically have to spoil the ending right here at the jump. Because if not, I'm going to be talking a whole lot of gibberish that isn't going to make any sense to anyone. Just, let it be known that I tried to warn you. If you want to save the surprise for yourself, be sure to check this one out and come back to the video later. We good then? Alright, so basically this whole story is a dream. I know, right? Tom King telling a dream story? Geez, must be a day that ends in Y, am I right? But in truth, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Essentially, wherever Superman went when the Justice League was killed/disappeared by Pariah. But now it seems wherever they are, they've been given their own dream dimension wherein their heart's desires come true. We saw this a little bit with Barry Allen, and for Superman it seems that his dream world, the thing that he wanted most of all, is to be able to grow old and actually raise his son John in the way he was never allowed to. John, of course, being artificially raised up by Brian Michael Bendis shenanigans. It's also weird that this is Superman's story and Superman's dream, but we spend way more time with John. I've always kind of been of the mind that Tom King's stories are probably more semi-autobiographical than most other people writing comics right now, and this story does offer an interesting little snapshot. He's feeling warm, fatherly feelings. He's also dreading empty nest syndrome, and those feelings are being felt by Superman himself within the story. We see some very cute little moments here wherein John acts like a regular young kid, loses his costume, annoys his mother who's trying to meet a deadline, him and his father go and walk Crypto the Superdog, while also fighting crime and trying to pick up a dinner that will work for the whole family. It's all very good stuff. You may also have noticed for some reason John is wearing a Robin costume. The book never outwardly explains why, but once you realize the whole thing is a dream, I certainly had my own theory. Maybe subconsciously on some level Superman is a little jealous of Batman and his relationship with the Robins, how he was able to watch them all grow up, and how being a Robin is this kind of iconic, sought-after life for young heroes, except for the times when they're getting murdered or tortured and quitting. We see John go through a series of very different milestones within his young life, dealing with a bully. In this case, it's Orion. Getting his first car, which in this case actually looks a lot like Connor's old supercycle from the Forever People, to eventually coming to the sad realization that most children come to, that your parents are not perfect heroes, even when they are literally meant to be perfect heroes. They're people with their own problems and issues. In this case, John's super hearing continues to be assaulted by terrible wars and genocides going out in the depths of space, perpetrated by none other than Darkseid. Only here's the thing, an older, and I can only assume more depleted Superman is no longer concerning himself with the affairs of the greater universe and is only trying to protect Earth. Which is actually a really funny take when we stop and consider the Philip Kennedy Johnson story that's going on right now in the main Superman book, and even the Morrison book from before that is literally the opposite. What with an older and depleted Superman leaving Earth in the care of his capable young son and instead going out to the greater universe to try and bring peace and justice, even if it is at a greater risk to himself. In fact, that's kind of where this story ends up coming to a close. An older John, complete with a brand new costume, trunks and all, bids a teary goodbye to Clark and Lois as he is ready to go out to the larger universe to sow his wild oats and maybe try and do what his older father couldn't. And yeah, that's basically the long and short of the story. Superman gets a chance to raise his son and watch him grow up in a way that he never got to in the main continuity, before eventually realizing that this is all some sort of Pariah Great Darkness-induced dream. There's also a backup story in this issue too that I'll talk about briefly. It's essentially a continuation of what Brandon Thomas has been doing with the Aquaman family of books in this dream world. Arthur Curry's Atlantean mother and human father are not only still alive, but still very much in love and are actually going to be redoing their vows. All of Aquaman's closest friends and family are coming, including all of his sidekicks from over the years, Calder, Tempest, and even newer characters like his adult daughter Andy and their partner. Jesse Chambers from Earth 11. Wow, to think they first made these to a couple over in the Future State Justice League book, and the whole thing is actually managed to maintain. Hell, even Black Manta is invited, because in this perfect world, Aquaman and Manta are friends. He's a good father to his son Calder, and they even spar together. How about that? But much like Superman before him, Arthur eventually gets wise to the fact that all of this is much too perfect. Aquaman says he's also died before, not afraid to die again, and that he will undo what Pariah and the Great Darkness have planned for the rest of the DC universe. And so that was Dark Crisis Worlds Without a Justice League Superman issue number 1, everybody, and I can see why they kept the actual plot of this tie-in series so close to the chest. Because chances are, if I told you, oh yeah, it's a bunch of tie-ins where everyone gets what they've always wanted and lives their happiest, most perfect dream, you would probably say, oh, there's really no drama to that, and it's not connected to anything else that's going on in the main Dark Crisis title, so why should I read it? That being said, I did not regret my time with this book. For those keeping track, this is actually the first full Tom King story I've read since the end of his Batman run. And honestly, I think this one-shot story confirms a feeling that fans have been having for a very long time now, and that is King ultimately does better with the Superman family. His dream logic-inspired flights of fantasy being a lot easier to swallow when you have a character who is basically always able to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and is really unrestrained by any sort of logic, comic book or otherwise. It's also an interesting idea for a series of Crisis tie-ins. DC Crises are usually always so defined by what they change and what they take away, and yet right here in this story, it's actually about giving stuff to characters and letting them be happy for a bit. I wouldn't call this required reading for Dark Crisis to understand the greater story. In fact, I have the sneaking suspicion none of the tie-ins I've actually read for Dark Crisis are necessary and that I'm reading the wrong ones. But, you know, it's not a bad story. If you're a Superman completionist or a King completionist, I think you'll find something to enjoy in this one. And hey, you get a nice bonus Aquaman story in there too, which, boy, I feel like I really should have been reading this era in Aquaman. Overall, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. Hey there everyone, Cape Joel again, and I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you see, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. It really helps drive engagement and helps me out too. Also, if you are a patron, which you can become for as little as $1 a month, you will get exclusive content that no one else can ever see, and you'll get to see the Comic Multiverse podcast before anyone else too. You can check out all this and more down in the description. And until next time everyone, this has been Cape Joel, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.